Thank you for joining today's webinar. We have an exciting 1-hour presentation here. I'm going to be joined by another panelist. I'm going to introduce him in a second. But before we get going, here's a quick agenda. Today we're going to talk about moving to cloud financials. Most of you have some sort of an ERP. You're looking to move for various different reasons, whether you outgrown your ERP, whether you want to lower your IT costs or maintenance costs or whatever the reason may be. We're going to discuss that, why the trend is such that many companies like yours are moving to cloud as opposed to maintaining on-premise ERP or financial solution. And we're going to be joined by a customer who's going to talk about their journey or their migration from Great Plains to NetSuite Cloud ERP. And we'll do a product demonstration thereafter, and then we'll finish out the webinar with a Q&A session. We'll entertain your questions towards the end. For those of you who are new to NetSuite, I just want to spend a few minutes just talk about who we are. NetSuite was founded in 1998. We are always been a cloud company. It wasn't something that we started with the on-premise, license-based model, and then we migrated our solution to cloud. The entire architect of NetSuite was designed from ground up to be a cloud software from day one. We are a publicly traded company on New York Stock Exchange. We have offices in 10 countries and over 1,700 employees worldwide. And we finished out our fiscal year 2012 with $308 million revenue year over year. That represented 31% growth year over year in revenue. We have over 16,000 organizations that have standardized their business. They're running on NetSuite Cloud Financials or ERP. We have an entire suite. So many organizations are using CRM, e-commerce, professional service automation, along with the ERP and inventory management, the whole gamut. That's what we do. We enable businesses to run their entire operation using our solution. As you can see on the left-hand side, bottom left-hand side, that some of the marquee customers that have also adopted NetSuite as a ERP solution, either at their subsidiary level or when, whether they have expanded their operation with the mergers and acquisitions, or they have launched new products, or they have introduced new channel of revenue, they have gone with Cloud ERP, with NetSuite, to support that expansion and growth. Companies like Procter & Gamble, Land O'Lakes, these are marquee companies that are using Cloud ERP with NetSuite, NetSuite Cloud ERP, to run their subsidiaries, and in some cases they have standardized their entire international operation with NetSuite. I would like to introduce another speaker with me today. His name is John Feld. He's a CIO with more than 20 years of strategic IT experience. He has served the Advocacy Centers. He's with the Advocacy Center of Louisiana. He's been with them for 10 years, and he's responsible for strategic development, implementation, and management of information technology at statewide Louisiana nonprofit law firm with 4 locations in Louisiana. He's a part of a senior management team reporting to executive director, and he's personally responsible for aligning information technology with company's mission as a nonprofit. Prior to Advocacy Center, Mr. Feld served as a systems engineer at America Life Care, which is now part of the Carlyle Group. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Vishnu. It's great to be here.
Thank you. And after I share a few slides with you, we will go and have a discussion with John to understand what was their thinking process, what were the criteria for moving to cloud, what were the drivers behind that, and if some of the benefits that they're realizing by making that move. We'll discuss that in the panel discussion. I want to just share some trend, before we get going with our discussion. The trends, it's not surprising that companies are moving to cloud. It's impossible to have a business conversation without talking about cloud computing today. Whether it's the movie rental, storing documents, sharing film, music, banking, or business solution, it's all about cloud. That raises a question: have we embraced cloud to run our business? In a tough economic environment and ever-changing expectation, business leaders such as yourselves are required to deliver outcomes faster and cheaper with fewer resources. For businesses of all sizes emphasizes cloud represents tremendous opportunity and is the de facto standard for doing business for companies now. Cloud is here to stay. It's not a fad. It's not something that's going to last for 4 or 5 years and go away. It's here to stay and represents a tremendous opportunity to change the way we do business. As you can see from this slide, some of the leading analyst firms are talking about cloud being the de facto standard going forward. Gartner says the #1 technology affecting IT today. Here's another chart that I'd like to share with you. This shows that cloud computing is important. It's trending upward of 92% of the respondents in the CIO survey, CIO 2012 Global Cloud Computing Survey, consider cloud initiative to be a priority for their organization over the next 18 months. And 63% said cloud computing is a high priority. Companies like yours are moving to cloud for various different reasons, whether to minimize the cost, focus on your core competency, not worrying about maintaining servers and upgrading software, running your business, expansion, growth, whatever the reason may be, cloud is becoming a de facto standard. Here's another slide that I want to share with you. It's not surprising that cloud is gaining momentum. You could pay 5 times of the cost of license implementation for on-premise solution. Is that money well spent? License costs are all upfront costs. Means before you realize any benefit of implementing new software, you're paying 100% of your license costs, and that's a lot of investment before actually seeing any benefit from it. The total cost of hardware required, middleware, implementation, database licenses add up to significant investment without actually realizing the benefit for a long time. Other thing to note is that majority of the on-premise implementation, in this case, 66% of them are version locked, meaning that they are actually they're not on the latest version from the vendor. The reason for that is that they are afraid to take on that daunting task of upgrades. You never know whether you can actually realize the benefit of new features, new functionality that the vendors have built, because it's so expensive to upgrade. So 66% of on-premise customers are on older version from their vendor. The other thing is what Gartner is saying, that over 90% of the IT budget is spent on maintenance and administration without actually realizing the benefit of new innovation. And 9% goes towards innovation. Is that the best way to spend our money? With the on-premise solution, these are the typical scenarios that companies face. What makes it even more challenging is that organizations are still leveraging, that are using an on-premise solution or license model, are leveraging solutions that were designed to meet the business requirements of decade ago. Meaning, we no longer, in 1993, these were the common ways we did business. You were faxing the order, using yellow pages, paper trail for everything, making a phone call. If you look at 2013, this is not the way business is conducted today. It's all mobile, whether paperless offices, real time, running businesses in cloud. If this is a trend, if this is how the businesses are operating, are you still using technology that was developed 10 years ago to solve a specific problem to run businesses today? Because the challenge of today are different than what we had before, meaning that customers today expect us to be connected to them all the time. They want to have 24/7 access. They want to reach to us, and there are various different ways they can reach to us, with social media, with blogging, whatever the case may be. How are you going to manage your business with the tools that you have that you selected 10 years ago or 20 years ago, for example? Even after automation, when we talk to the executives, or when we talk to users at the companies, at our prospect, when we talk to them, simple thing that they ask us, why can we not still do this? We just want to understand what our bookings look like, what our billings, what is our backlog. It's simple things. We need that to run our business today. If you want to reduce spreadsheet-based accounting, we don't want to be exporting data from our ERP or financial and do all the analysis in spreadsheet. meaning that, if you have multiple systems, then you need to consolidate data. The way you do that, you do it in spreadsheet. We want to eliminate that because it's error prone. We have multiple versions and so on and so forth. We have grown our business and our system is not able to support the growth. How do we do that? So things like that. And, I want to have a visibility across all my business. If I have multiple subsidiaries, I want to have visibility across all my subsidiaries, not just my headquarters. How do I get that? And the most important thing is that I need to have real-time visibility. I don't want to wait for 3 days before I can actually report my financial. I want to know what's happening. I want to know when the order comes in, do I have enough inventory to support that order? Or what do I tell my customer? I want to be able to communicate that information in real time. Why can we not still do that in 2013? Those are the questions that we get asked when we are talking to them about moving to cloud and moving to cloud suite. Well, so how did we get there? This is a typical journey that a company goes through. Maybe you automate different processes, and you end up with multiple systems in place. Meaning they are doing. You have a siloed business applications to do run your CRM. Then for your accounting and financials, you have maybe Great Plains. Then you have for warehousing, if you're a warehousing company, you have some other application, and for your support, you have something else. And on top of that, we like to call this an application hairball. And this was an unintended consequences of automation, meaning that you had the right intention to automate and each process, but you end up with this hairball. You have different solutions. And at the end of the day, you rely on Excel to pull the data from all these different systems into Excel, and then you run your analysis there. And we all know, however much we love Excel, but gathering data in Excel is a painful thing because you have many different versions, you have many different spreadsheets that you're looking at, and it's all outdated. It's not real time because data is being exported into Excel at different times. The other thing about on-premise versus cloud is that if you have an on-premise solution, if you are running a financials or CRM or e-commerce, for example, if you have those 3 different applications, you need hardware, you need desktop OS, server, databases, and applications for each one of those business applications. Now you have to maintain that. You have to make sure that everything is upgraded. Make sure that the one OS, your CRM supports the same OS that your financials does. All these different things that you have to worry about, which is actually not adding any value to your business. It's just a maintenance. It's just that you need to do that to just run your business. When you talk about Cloud Business Suite, it simplifies all that because all you need to worry about is all you need is an internet connection, login, and a password. Then you're connected to your financial, CRM, and e-commerce, all living in a single repository, single centralized repository. You have all your data there. You don't need to worry about servers. You don't need to worry about hardware. Nothing to do with the operating system or upgrades or anything like that. It simplifies running your business. You can focus on your core competency. You can focus on running your business as opposed to maintaining your servers, for example. And the question is that we need to ask, is this something that we are doing? Are we spending so much time and resources in just managing the infrastructure and not actually leveraging the software what was designed for? Here are some of the reasons that we see companies move from their on-premise Great Plains solution to NetSuite Cloud ERP or cloud solution. Number one thing is we need agility. We live in an environment where things are happening fast. Whatever the information that we had yesterday is no longer applicable today. One example that I like to use is, for example, Best Buy. Best Buy people, nowadays what happens is that people walk into Best Buy, they have their mobile phone, they scan the barcode on the product that they're interested in, get educated by talking to people in the store, and then they make their purchase online somewhere else, on Amazon or somewhere else. Now, this scenario this is a common scenario that happens. It's agility. I need to be able to, for example, businesses need to adopt to this type of a situation. How can they capture customer? Or are we losing customer because we don't have answers for them? business agility is number one thing. When you have on-premise solution, it kind of limits your ability to make decisions or grow or expand quicker. Reduce IT infrastructure. We live in a world where budgets are being cut in every single department. And IT, I would say, and John can validate that when we talk to him, that IT has been affected the most. With limited resources, how do I support all these different initiatives that my company has? And one thing is to eliminate all this hardware that I need to purchase. Don't worry about the upgrade, expensive upgrade. Moving to cloud enables me to do that. And, multiple versions of data. I mean, this is a common problem that, if I have multiple versions of data and if they're in a different solution, how can I have a real-time visibility? How can I make decisions? So companies are wanting to make real decisions with the right data, and with the on-premise solution, Great Plains and other siloed application, it's almost impossible to do that. The other thing to realize is that, the workforce that we have today is a lot different than what 10 years ago, for example. People need access from anywhere, anytime. I need to be able to get to my dashboard. I need to be able to get to my orders. I need to be able to view inventory levels anytime, anywhere. Workforce is mobile. I need to be able to connect, get that same dashboard information on my mobile phone. And it has to be self-service. The fact that, IT budgets are being cut, or users are becoming sophisticated users for the application, they want to be able to do things themselves. They don't have to wait for someone to develop their report, or they don't want to wait for someone to create their dashboard. The application should be such that they can self-serve for things that they need to run their own group or their own business. The technology of 10 years ago cannot support the needs of today. That's the bottom line, and that's why companies are coming to us asking what we can do for them. So NetSuite basically, from ground up, from day one, we realized that the companies want to be able to run their entire business on the same platform. So what we have developed from day one is that we have our ERP, financials, CRM, professional services automation, or e-commerce, all on the same platform. It's all integrated. It's the same data source. So there's never a case where you need to import a data from another solution. If you're using NetSuite, you can obviously use financials and not use other modules. That's your choice, and we integrate with the other solution. But if you decide to go with NetSuite as an entire suite, you have nothing to worry about because all the data that you need is all there. Not only for, and if you have international operations or if you have international offices, we support that as well with something called NetSuite One World, multi-currency, subsidiary consolidation. We support that out of the box. You don't have to worry about that. And last thing that I want before we go to John is that why companies are moving, because these are the benefits. I mean, I can talk about this for a long time, but here what it is like, you don't have to worry about upgrades. Bottom line. No version lock. You are always on the latest version of the software that vendor has. There is no confusion about that. Agility, speed of innovation. Like I said, businesses need to innovate, and they need to do things fast. They cannot wait for things. They cannot make decisions on old information or old data. They need to have real-time visibility, and they need to innovate fast. Lower cost of ownership. Why should I be spending money on maintaining my solution when I'm getting no value out of that? So I need to be able to lower my cost of owning of the software that I'm using to run my business. And my platform has to be scalable. I mean, I'm growing. I'm going to have I'm going to have global expansion. I'm going to have multiple offices. I'm going to have new products that I'm launching, new partnership. The platform that you select has to be scalable, and the cloud enables all this inherently. You don't need to worry about new licenses. You can just add users as you expand. You're not paying for something upfront that you're not even using. With cloud, you have flexibility on a pay-as-you-go model. And again, workforces they are everywhere, anytime, anywhere access, because people are working remotely, different time zones, or whatever the case may be. We need to, and cloud solution offers this from get-go. With that, I'd like to introduce John. I want to bring him on a panel and have I want to go through I want to ask some questions to John to see like what were the drivers and what were the decisions that you were making. What were the criteria for you to go to cloud solution from on-premise, the Great Plains on-premise solution. But before that, I want to give John an opportunity to talk about what he does and his nonprofit organization. John?
Thanks, Vishrut. I appreciate it. As Vishrut said, I'm the CIO of the Advocacy Center. We are a nonprofit law firm that provides legal services for people with disabilities and the elderly in the state of Louisiana. We have offices in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Shreveport, and Lafayette, Louisiana, and we are a statewide organization. We have about 100 people and about a dozen attorneys, 100 people total, about 12 attorneys, and a huge IT staff of 2 people, myself and a system administrator. So we're pretty lean in that regards. Vishrut?
Thank you, John. And so I'm just going to get into this. So John, as you guys were deciding, to go to from Great Plains to move to some new ERP, and in your case it was NetSuite, what were the key challenges that you were facing with Great Plains?
Sure. We're going to be a little different than most people making this decision because in some ways our hand was forced. Our key challenge that we faced that led to our adoption of NetSuite was Hurricane Katrina. When that hit, our headquarters office is in New Orleans, and we lost our building there in New Orleans, where we had a typical sort of IT environment with in-house servers for everything, a VPN connecting all of the branch offices so that it was one network, and all that was gone in one fell swoop, and all of our New Orleans employees, which is the bulk of the company, it's obviously our largest office, we're kind of spread out across the country, and we managed through incredible efforts through all of the staff to survive that. Thankfully, a lot of businesses did not make it through that event, and afterwards, in sort of looking at where we were at after that, we realized that these were going to hurricane events were going to happen again and again, and we needed to, from a business continuity and a disaster recovery standpoint, do a better job than we could possibly do with on-premise software. So we started looking at the cloud, and we moved took some of the low-hanging fruit like email first, and eventually within a year or so got to our ERP system and moved from Great Plains to NetSuite. So that was the number one driver. The other factors that were very much part of that decision were things that you went over in your presentation. We had sort of that classic hairball of solutions, Excel combined with Great Plains that was not working. We were locked into a very, very old version of Dynamics that we would have been great difficulty financially and technically to upgrade. And we had a whole bunch of other processes that were not working very well. Time and expense procedures done on Excel spreadsheets was very time-consuming and not very efficient. So those were all the secondary reasons. But the number one reason was Hurricane Katrina.
Okay. Thanks, John. I mean, natural disaster. There is, and you basically kind of decided that you don't want to manage the infrastructure that you have in place because this could happen, and you basically on a verge of kind of going out of business, if you will, right? Yeah. Okay. As you were, I'm sure there were other things that you were an on-premise shop. You were at Great Plains for years before, and going to cloud. I'm sure there was a paradigm shift within your own organization, and why did you decide to go to cloud, and why did you decide on a business suite as opposed to what you had before, best of breed, prior to the prior to making the move?
Well, again, as I said, the why cloud was not the issue for us that it would be for maybe some of the folks in the audience. It wasn't a decision based on current trends. It was we have to be able to continue on in the very real possibility of losing the New Orleans office again. And in the years since Katrina, we have had to evacuate the city of New Orleans. So it's just something we knew we were going to have to live with. So, having that, in front of us, the decision to go to cloud was obvious, and then it was just a case of, well, who, is a suitable vendor that does that? And that really, made the choice fairly easy for us, particularly at that time where there weren't very many other competitors who were in the cloud, and certainly no one as robust and as you said in your intros, sort of started off very much in the cloud to begin with. So that's what pushed us into NetSuite.
Okay. Were there any other were there any other solutions that you evaluated before you made the decision?
Oh yeah, we looked at everything that we could find that was available. Again, back then, even just a few years ago, there weren't as maybe some of the options that we are now. We looked at Quicken. QuickBooks had an online offering, but it was nowhere near robust enough for what we would need to do. SAP had an offering, but it was very immature, in my opinion, at that point in time. So we kind of wrote that off, and I believe those were our two main things that we were looking at. And NetSuite was just clearly, a more robust solution, and had been doing it longer than anybody else, and it met all of our needs, so that all worked out very well for us.
Okay, thank you, John. Moving on to the next question here is that now that you've been running in cloud for the last several years, and can you share some of the benefit that you are realizing by moving to cloud, and if you have any other plans to expand, any next steps if you would like to share with us? Yeah.
Sure. That's the great thing that we found out. Again, we were not looking at some of the other business benefits other than business continuity and disaster preparedness so much, because those two things were really driving us. But we did realize an enormous amount of other benefits, other than just, disaster recovery and business continuity. We, automated our time entry, which was a huge process that took, basically we had one person, at the end of every, 2-week period, manually tabulating, the timesheets that were done by Excel, and that person is now freed from, that really tiresome, brain dead sort of work to do more, valuable things. So that was a huge benefit. We have access to our data in real time, which we never really had before. So we can look at, how much time we're spending for a particular program, and seeing, we have federal grants that we, are working under. Are we overspent? Are we underspent here? Where are our resources? Where do they need to go? We can see that in real time without having to wait, until a report comes out, which would always be behind the times back with our old system in terms of, the data. That and getting, accurate financial information very quickly to our board of directors and to our funding sources, all of those things were sort of the surprise benefits that we weren't directly searching for when we moved to the cloud, because it really was for disaster, business continuity stuff, but we really have reaped those benefits going forward.
Thank you, John. And you mentioned earlier that you have two folks in sort of an IT role, including yourself. So enabling users to be self-reliant or self-serve to create the reports and dashboard. Have you realized that with going to NetSuite?
Absolutely. The first year of our implementation, most of the reports were created by the IT staff. because we were kind of recreating stuff that we had in our old system. Now our financial team and also our executive team and our fundraising people have so many reports that they've self-done. I couldn't even keep track of them all. They pretty much took the report writing ball and just ran with it, which is great because they're the ones who know what information they need to track. Occasionally, IT might be pulled in for a question or something, but they might know it better than I do at this point.
Okay. All right, that actually gives you some free time to do other strategic.
Absolutely right.
Right.
Also, with just two people, managing, server maintenance and upgrades and security and patches and other things like that, we don't have to deal with anymore, and we also don't have to be worried about locked into a version. With our Great Plains that we were on, I was trying to figure out before this presentation, which version of Great Plains we were on, in case somebody had asked the question. But it really doesn't matter because we were so far back from the current version. Even then, that we were stuck with this very old version. With something like NetSuite, being in the cloud, we don't have to worry about that. We're always on the new version, and that is just huge, particularly if you need tech support or anything else, and we get to the benefit of all the new features. So that's been a huge benefit for us.
Perfect. I do want to ask you one question before we go to the next question, is that having your CRM and back office financial integrated out of the box without you actually doing the integration and spending money and time on that, and even your e-commerce, like your website integrated with your back office financial, like what has that done for you in a sense? Like what are the things that you're able to do that you were not able to do before?
That's a real good question. And compared to, I'm sure a lot of the companies, watching, being a relatively small, 100-person nonprofit, we actually weren't doing some of the things that we are doing now at all. So, that's a big deal. A couple examples. We don't really have CRM or sales cycle, but we do have a fundraising cycle, and we implemented the fundraising package in NetSuite, and that compares very, very well with actually a sales sort of cycle and CRM functionality with some differences. But we didn't even have any sort of fundraising arm, and now we do, and we use NetSuite to do that, and that we have a person who's in NetSuite all day tracking potential funding sources and potential donors. We have now a way that you can donate directly to us on the website, which we didn't have before NetSuite. That again, it is a direct into the books, and it's that is something we didn't have before. So that NetSuite doesn't allow us to do those things better than we did before. They allow us to do them, period, where we really weren't doing them before, period, and we just started taking advantage of the software that we could, and we've really gotten more out of it than we did our previous software.
Okay, thank you, John, for sharing that. And the last thing that I want to ask you before we get to the product demonstration is that for people that are looking to make the move, or people who are on-premise and they're just evaluating the cloud solution, like any advice that you can offer, any best practices, if you will?
Sure. There's a couple of things that I would mention, and a lot of it depends on obviously what the company's particular needs are. Migrating to a new solution is difficult, particularly for us with so much functionality was tied into, I think what you call it an application hairball. That there was parts of our business process that we didn't even really know ourselves, or they were siloed off, and IT didn't know that what accounting was doing, accounting didn't know what IT was doing in some places, because like most people, our system evolved over 20 years or so, and it wasn't designed from the get-go. It just grew. So taking advantage of the implementation team is something I would recommend everyone looking at. Y'all have a process, project management process that you've used obviously with many other customers, and we're in very good hands with that. We've even though there are just two of us, we're pretty sophisticated here in terms of what we do, and we did seriously look at doing the implementation ourselves. I would not recommend somebody do that. I would recommend taking advantage of the resources in the implementation, because we got a lot of great value out of that, and I don't think we could have moved nearly as successfully as we were without that. So that would be one thing I would look at. As far as other things to look at, as opposed to moving to the cloud. People often look at, and again, I know that we come at it from a very different point of view. People often look at the risks of going to the cloud, and certainly there are some to look at, but look at the risks of not going to the cloud. When you have someone like the entire staff of NetSuite looking after your ERP, if you can, do better than that yourself, then you're in really, a rarefied place. We had looked at it reasonably and said, entrusting that to the vendor was going to give us better, quality than we could do in-house. And in terms of, things like uptime and other things like that, it has been better than what we could have done in-house. And that's been a great relief because, we didn't have anything in the cloud prior to Katrina, and now we have everything. And NetSuite has been rock solid, so we haven't had to worry about anything like that.
Thank you, John, for sharing that. It was a very thank you for sharing the insight and sharing your story and your migration experience from or going from Great Plains to NetSuite. At this point, I'd like to introduce Dan Safarati, who's our Senior Solutions Consultant, and he'll give us a brief demonstration of NetSuite product, 10 minutes demonstration. All right, Dan, you're on.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All righty. So, share my desktop. Good afternoon. Excuse me. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dan Safarati, and I'm a solution consultant with NetSuite. Appreciate y'all taking the time to learn a little bit more about NetSuite and capabilities. So from a brief run-through from a demonstration agenda perspective, really give you all just a brief overview of NetSuite, help you get a better understanding of what it is and some of the navigation, talk about the roles that you can have within NetSuite, some dashboard capabilities, dive into something that we call Customer 360 by having everything visible about a customer within one spot, and then wrap up with some reporting toward the end. So from you guys have all seen this picture already, and so really this is what we're going to focus on today is how easily within NetSuite, with one single database, you have access to all information, whether it be CRM information, PSA, or if you're running e-commerce, all that from a single source within NetSuite. So, one of the things that I really enjoy about NetSuite is the fact that there are always multiple reporting options when it comes to analytics, whether it be business intelligence, financial, ad hoc, or queries or saved searches. Oftentimes with other applications, this could be multiple different report writers. With NetSuite, if you understand one, you understand how to work any of these things. So from a training standpoint, it's real quick and easy to get up and create your own saved search instead of having to figure out how to, for instance, create a smart list, or a financial report writer, whether it be FRX or management reporter. So all the same standard capabilities are there. And the nice thing about it as well is we've got a nice feature set that expands across all those reporting capabilities. And what you can see is with each of these, you've got capabilities to have them show up on a dashboard, put some formatting around them. The ability to create new custom fields doesn't take a huge effort to go ahead and add that information. And, of course, you've got drill-down capabilities as well as audit trails within each of these areas. So that's just a brief, kind of understanding of how NetSuite is structured. Let's just jump into the application. All right, so what you see here, I'm logged in as Larry Nelson, the CEO of McGeever Software. And if I just sort of highlight over here to the right, you can see how you can have multiple different roles. And depending on who you are, is going to determine what your dashboard might look like, as well as the tabs that you see across the top. So, for instance, within here, whether you can determine any activities, sales, marketing information, expenses, keep track of that. And then within what we call the body of our dashboard is what we call portlets. So these portlets are all user definable, where we can set up key performance indicators, and these key performance indicators are definable on a user-by-user basis as to what is most important to you. NetSuite provides multiple standard key performance indicators that can be used, as well as the ability to go ahead and create your own custom key performance indicators. And the ability to create some highlighting. So if you need to understand if income has gone out or reached a certain threshold, you can have that highlighted on our chart. So it's very powerful on a user-by-user basis to be able to make the changes that matter to you the most. Other KPI meters, so if you want to track actual versus forecast, trends, so all these graphs here, we can then take these, export those, or publish the chart out someplace out to, maybe to some investors, or even be able to keep track of your customers and, their profitability. We also have what's called this Create New bar, so we can easily, quickly create a new customer or a new lead or a new task without having to go through menu functions with that. And on a user-by-user basis, we can define what our dashboard looks like so that we could add additional portlets. So what you see here highlighted in bold means these are already within there. And any report or trend graph that is stored within the system, we can make that available via the dashboard. So from this dashboard, one of the things that we can do is take a look at an income statement. So within here, here's an example of, just a simple income statement where we have a standard row format. What period do we want to look at? So we have any number of choices to pick from. We can do a custom selection, so it could be for an entire year. And what subsidiary context? So when we talk about, NetSuite One World, for instance, we can have multiple subsidiaries. So here's an example of a subsidiary tree, is how we may want to view our information, as well as, how do we want to view it? So it could be by class, department, location, or subsidiary hierarchy, for instance. So if I select this, this will show me all the subsidiaries that I may have access to, or that may roll up. As you can see, with some additional options, we can, take a look at class, location, and really what these represent are segments of your chart of accounts. So we have unlimited segments. This provides you some flexibility as far as what you can see or limit, as well as customers. So oftentimes folks want to see, hey, what is the profitability of that customer? So we're able to drill down to that information as well. From here, we've got some various options, such as do we want to, how do we want this report displayed? Do we want to see this in a graphical format, print, email, schedule, and of course, export capabilities. So when we talk about One World as well, that also means we can view information in any number of languages. So depending on who you are, is going to determine what language you want to see. But also at the same time, what currency do we want to see that information in? So if I select United Kingdom, on the fly, it is converting everything that I have to pounds. So there's no process or translation that should run through. It is done automatically, and this is all updated real time based on the latest currency translations that are within the system. And because NetSuite is 100% browser based, so it can run on Safari, Chrome, Internet Explorer, whatever browser you might have, capabilities to run it there. And you've got access to use your back button, so if you quickly want to get back to where you were, you can simply hit back with that. But because I'm from a CFO perspective, if I want to take a closer look at what's happening in the Americas, I could simply change my subsidiary context, and now I've got visibility to everything that's happening here within my area of the world, and I can now drill down to some of the detail within there. So now I can see all the individual invoices, and if you notice, we can even pull in customer information, or not just information from the GL, but we can pull information from anywhere within the system as long as we have the capability to track back to it. And from here, we can drill down right to the individual invoice. So what I've done is, right from the financial report, drilled into the invoice. We've got some information about the customer. Maybe if this was partner related, we could see who their partner was, and what was the item that was sold, and what was the amount associated with it. All right. If I want to, I can accept payment from right here, but I can also now drill back or down to the customer level. So this gives us a complete view of everything that's going on with this particular customer. Now, I want you to keep in mind that everything you see here, the tabs, the fields, the information that's displayed, is completely configurable to your organization. We can add or remove tabs, as well as create any user-defined field that's necessary to capture the information that's most important to you. So what you see over here at the top, we're taking a look at our general information, and you can see this is what we call our Customer 360, where we've got a view of all of our contacts, any activities that they may have done, any user notes. All right, so as people enter information in the system, we can flag and keep track of user notes. One of my favorite, system notes, so we constantly have an audit trail of everything that is done within the organization. Any messages, so meaning any email messages that have been sent out, and that includes not just from a sales standpoint, but also from the accounting side. So, for instance, any invoices that have gone out, or collection notices, or for past due, things of that nature. We have all that information consolidated into one location. And we, because I'm here at the customer, we have the capability to track opportunities, where we are, the stages, the history of everything that's happened with that customer, any transactions that have taken place. So we've got complete visibility to everything that's ever occurred with that particular customer. And right even from here, we can create a new sales order or an invoice. And then as we go through here, I'm not going to hit on all of these, but the items that they have, we've got customer support to keep track of any cases or issues so everyone's on the same page. Projects from project accounting, we can capture time and expense. If you have email campaigns or subscriptions, as well as what we call a file cabinet. So any documents that may be important to that customer, we can keep track of that information stored all within NetSuite. Each of these tabs can be configured to capture information that's critical. One thing I do want to point out is, which is important to most controllers and CFOs, is financial information about my customers. So I've got a quick snapshot of everything about that, as well as down here we have the capability, what currencies does this customer have, and also the ability to go ahead and keep track of credit cards associated with that customer. A couple things to point out at the top here. We've got more actions where we can view all the transactions, so we've got a nice little list to see everything that's gone on about that customer, as well as if we need to make a print screen of everything that we see here, or right from here, this is our quick create, where we can create a new contact all the way down through a new file or project for this customer. Then finally, to wrap things up, we have what's called our own customer dashboard. So we've got a dashboard, from a user standpoint, but we also have a dashboard for the customer where we've got complete, detail about everything that is happening with that customer. Down here along the side, information about it, key performance indicators, we call some standard dashboard links, as well as any transactions that are related to that particular customer. All right. One other thing to point out, oftentimes people have partners that they deal with. We can keep track of partners where we provide also a partner portal so partners can log in. And we also have a customer portal where customers can log in, make payments, view things that are outstanding, as well as a vendor portal so vendors can come in and view information, submit invoices, and things of that nature. All right, so that's what we call our Customer 360. I'm going to come back to my home page here. And I'm going to switch gears and move to more of an administrative type role just to point out a couple of things from an overall reporting standpoint. Before I do that, I just want to point out, as you can see, my screens change from an administrator standpoint. In this particular case, we are able to keep track of what we call SaaS metrics. So if you're a software as a service organization, we can keep track of key metrics such as churn, number of new customers, upsells and downsells, as well as any contract renewals. And one thing to point out here in this view, or this what we call Save Search, if you notice, anytime you see in NetSuite, you see this little pencil, that's what we call inline editing. So I actually don't have to open up the record. I can just make a change right to it here, and it saves updates that field within the record immediately without having to go ahead and open it up. Come to my report center, and just to give you an understanding of, what, from a reporting standpoint, what everything there is to offer. So we've got your favorite save reports. We can schedule reports, save searches, which is kind of for those Great Plains users, similar to the Smart List, more flexibility. And then here are our standard reports, as well as the ability to go ahead and create and set up defined reports. And if you notice here, this is where you can create, set up a new report, a new financial report, or a new search. All using the same functionality. It's just different as to the types of analytics or information that's going to provide back to the user. All right. One of the reports that I just want to bring up is an example of a revenue recognition forecast. So for those folks who are in the software as a service industry, being able to keep track of revenue and what is coming due. For instance, as 2013, we've made some sales. We may want to see everything that is going to be happening for the entire year. So if I just select accounting period, it's going to show me all the amounts that I'm due to be recognized on an invoice-by-invoice basis. And when I take a look at view to detail, it's really just a matter of each line item on each invoice. So with NetSuite, we have revenue recognition down at the line item level. And when it comes to tailoring these reports, it's very easy. I simply hit Customize, and over here you can see, this is where you can add a new formula field, so you can define and create your own formulas. And then what you see here are in green, those are some user-defined fields, so as soon as you create one, it's available for you there. And is adding another field to report is as simple as dragging and dropping it onto the screen. We can preview it, so it's not going to bog down your server, or excuse me, I should say, bog down the runtime of what's happening on screen. You're just going to get a quick snapshot. But then there's the ability to edit your columns. We've got filters, sorting, and a variety of various options within there.
Hey, Dan, thank you very much. I think we are running up to an hour here, so we have a couple of questions that we want to get in before we end here. So, and we do have some requests for doing an in-depth demo, so we'll definitely schedule those, and you can probably help out with that as well. Thank you for showing the product or demonstration, Dan. Thank you for that. We have time for maybe one or two questions, and then we have a lot of questions here. We'll make sure that we'll get back to you guys later on, but we'll take about one or two questions right now. This is for John. John, the question is that have you had any issues with security as such, being in the cloud and having not access to your NetSuite instance, for example? Can you share your experience with that?
We have not had any trouble security-wise. As an administrator, I get anytime someone, even if tries to log into an account and fails, which in every case that's happened, that's been one of our users forgetting their password. I get information. I'll get an email saying, "Hey, someone tried to log in, 3 times," and I can set something there. So we have had no issues security-wise with it, and of course, compared to having all of our financial information, on the top floor of an unsecured building during a disaster, it's much more secure. In terms of the other question was security, and what was the second?
Availability.
Availability. No,
yes.
we have not had any outages in the time since we've had that, so it's pretty amazing.
Okay, thank you, John. And I think I'm going to squeeze in one more question.
Sure.
The question is about how long did it take you to go live with NetSuite? I understand this it depends, that's the answer, but in your experience, if you can tell us, because you had Great Plains and you moved over to, in your experience, how long did it take you for you to go live on NetSuite and have your reports ready?
I think it took us, I'm trying to remember exactly, I think it was just about 5 months. So it was a fairly long, ramp-up period for us, between, getting everything ready on our end and then going actually into the full implementation. Probably, if you totally include, some of the research time, 6 months total would have been what it was. But that includes, not actual, the official, where we were paying people to help us with.
Okay. Thank you for that, John.
Sure.
Once again, I'm going to actually end the webinar now because we are over our 1 hour time limit. But I want to thank you, John, for being on the panel and answering all these questions and sharing your experience and taking us through the journey of how you migrated from Great Plains to NetSuite. Dan, for giving us an overview demonstration of NetSuite product. Thank you for that. And like I mentioned, that we have had quite a few questions. We will definitely get back to you after this webinar. I want to thank you, all of you, for attending and taking our time to spend going through this webinar and product demonstration. Once again, thank you very much.